Mr. Fluffington was a small, brown teddy bear. He had bright button eyes and a friendly smile. Lily, as Lily. Every morning, Lily would greet her stuffed friends before leaving for school. She would give each one a big hug and whisper a secret. Then she would skip out the door, her backpack bouncing. As soon as the door clicked shut, something magical happened. Mr. Fluffington's button eyes would blink. He would wiggle his stitched paws and hop off the bed. It was time for Mr. Fluffington's secret adventures. Mr. Fluffington had a special routine every morning. He would fluff Penelope the pig's ears and straighten Barnaby the bear's bow tie. Then he would set off on his adventure. Sunlight streamed through the window, painting stripes across the floor. Mr. Fluffington stretched his fuzzy arms high above his head. He yawned, a silent, fluffy yawn. Today was an adventure day. Mr. Fluffington as Mr. Fluffington. First, he tiptoed over to Penelope the pig. She lay on her side, snoring softly. Mr. Fluffington gently fluffed her floppy ears. Penelope grunted happily in her sleep. Next, it was Barnaby the bear's turn. Barnaby was always a bit of a dandy. He lay on his back, his red bow tie slightly askew. Mr. Fluffington carefully straightened the bow tie. With his morning duties done, Mr. Fluffington felt a thrill of excitement. Today's adventure called to him. He turned his button eyes towards the Great Bookshelf Canyon. The Great Bookshelf Canyon was no ordinary bookshelf. From the floor, it towered like a mighty mountain range. Colourful books stood like tall buildings, their titles like welcoming signs. Mr. Fluffington had always wanted to explore its heights. He took a deep breath and began his climb. He scrambled over dusty dictionaries and scaled slippery stacks of magazines. He tiptoed across wide atlases, their pages filled with maps of faraway lands. Mr. Fluffington as Mr. Fluffington. Up he climbed, each level a new and exciting world. He met a friendly caterpillar chewing on a book about butterflies. "Don't judge a book by its cover," the caterpillar mumbled, winking at Mr. Fluffington. Higher and higher he climbed, the air thin and dusty. He could see the very top now, where the giant Encyclopediasaurus Rex lived. But something else caught his eye, a shimmering light peeking from behind the highest shelf. Mr. Fluffington had only climbed a little way when he bumped into Sir Roderick the Brave. Sir Roderick was a brave knight, even though he had lost his sword, probably under the bed, he grumbled. "Mr. Fluffington as Mr. Fluffington. Have you seen any dragons?" Sir Roderick asked, peering around a cookbook. "No dragons, but I did see a caterpillar who gives very good advice," chuckled Mr. Fluffington. Sir Roderick wished him luck on his journey and went on his way. Mr. Fluffington continued his climb, his heart pounding with excitement. He had never been this high in the Great Bookshelf Canyon before. He carefully navigated a precarious bridge formed by a paintbrush stretched between two novels. He squeezed through a narrow tunnel created by a stack of art books. With each step, he felt a sense of accomplishment. Finally, he reached a dusty ledge halfway up the canyon. He paused to catch his breath, and that's when he heard a mournful sigh. Section 5. The Encyclopediasaurus Rex. Peeking over a shelf of fairy tales, Mr. Fluffington saw him. The Encyclopediasaurus Rex! He was even bigger and grumpier than the stories described. His scales were made of dusty encyclopedias, and his eyes were magnifying glasses that seemed to pierce through Mr. Fluffington.
"What are you doing here, little bear?"
The Encyclopediasaurus Rex let out a roar that shook the entire bookshelf. His voice echoed around the canyon.
"I'm on an adventure. I want to see what's at the top of the Great Bookshelf Canyon."
The Encyclopediasaurus Rex snorted.
"There's nothing up there, just dust and cobwebs and lost things."
He looked away, a strange sadness in his magnifying glass eyes. Mr. Fluffington, sensing the giant creature's sadness, felt a surge of sympathy. He knew what it was like to be curious, to yearn for adventure. He decided to befriend the lonely Encyclopediasaurus Rex instead of fearing him.
"What kind of lost things?"
The Encyclopediasaurus Rex sighed, a sound like rustling pages.
"Lost letters, letters filled with forgotten stories and dreams."
Intrigued, Mr. Fluffington climbed the rest of the way up to the top shelf. There, behind a dusty photo album, he found it, the land of lost letters. It was a magical place. Letters shimmered with forgotten dreams. Envelopes floated like paper airplanes, carrying whispered secrets. Ink drops sparkled like tiny stars, each holding a story waiting to be told. Mr. Fluffington spent hours in the land of lost letters, listening to their tales and whispering words of comfort. He realized that even lost things held beauty and wonder. He gathered a handful of the most colourful letters, their envelopes adorned with beautiful stamps from faraway lands. He knew just what to do with them. Section 7. Homeward Bound and a Lesson Learned. As the last rays of sunlight painted the sky orange and purple, Mr. Fluffington knew it was time to go home. He carefully climbed down from the great bookshelf canyon, his heart full of joy and his pockets full of lost letters. He found the Encyclopediasaurus Rex still perched on his high shelf, looking lonely.
I'm going to make sure these stories are not forgotten.
Mr. Fluffington showed him the letters. The Encyclopediasaurus Rex nodded slowly, a glimmer of gratitude in his magnifying glass eye. Mr. Fluffington knew he had made a new friend. He hurried back to his spot on Lily's bed, just as the front door creaked open. Lily was home. He snuggled into his usual spot, a contented sigh escaping his cotton chest. That night, as Lily drifted off to sleep, Mr. Fluffington whispered his secret adventure in her ear. He told her about the brave knight, the wise caterpillar, the lonely Encyclopediasaurus Rex, and the magical land of lost letters. Section 8. Until the next adventure. Lily's eyes widened in wonder as she listened to his tale. She hugged Mr. Fluffington tight.
You are the most adventurous teddy bear I know.
As she drifted off to sleep, Mr. Fluffington smiled. He had learned that the greatest adventures often led to the biggest discoveries and sometimes the most unexpected friendships. And as the moonbeams danced across Lily's room, Mr. Fluffington closed his button eyes, already dreaming of his next secret adventure. For in a child's room, filled with imagination and wonder, anything was possible. Even a small brown teddy bear could become a fearless explorer. All he needed was a little bit of magic and a whole lot of heart.